Privilege to introduce our presenter this evening, Dr. Matthew Stafford. Please join me in welcoming him.
Thank you, ma'am. Hello. This is going to be informal. There is nothing better than citizens of the United States coming together in their community and learning together. And what better place to do it than their library? So this is neat, and I hope that. Okay, well we saw that didn't work, didn't we? Yeah, I hope that we'll continue to do stuff like this in the future. I'm not born here. My wife chose Dyersburg off of a map. 5 years ago, I got into an argument with a political official on the steps of the Pentagon. He wouldn't sign my policy. The chairman already had. I told him where he could go, very warm and sunny. I called my wife and said, that's it, I quit. Find me a place to live. I gave her a list of 7 things. She found Dyersburg. It has been wonderful. You've been a very welcoming community. I found a nice church. I found nice friends. I found a nice community. And I'm very, very honored to be with you tonight. This comes from a long, long time of being in the service when a 3-star general came to me and he said, I don't think my officers understand the Constitution. And I went out to their Air War College and I talked to them. I came back and said, you're right. So he said, could you develop a program to teach the officers when they swear an oath to the Constitution what they're swearing an oath to do? And I said, sure. So I came up with a program. Pretty soon I was snatched, and I've been to the head of the Department of Transportation, Department of Labor, I've been to NASA, I've been to IRS, I've been Treasury, I've been all over. Not been to the White House, but I've been all over the federal government delivering talks on the Constitution about what it means. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started through this. I can tell you that it's 4 nights. We'll really hit the Constitution big on the 3rd night. And I'll go through the order of things. I did have a slide prepared for in memoriam of the 9/11. I know that if you're of age, you know exactly where you were that morning. And I'm sure you think about it often. I know I do. There's our code of conduct we talk about. And this is what I want to talk about tonight, the values in the Constitution. I'm going to start with values because governance starts with values. What do you believe in? What are you willing to support? What will you fight for? What line cannot be crossed in the government that you select for yourself? And it's all about that we, the people. We together come together and figure out what we value. Thanks to my sponsors, this is the agenda. And you can see on this agenda, tonight we're going to do values and philosophical underpinnings. I teach philosophy at the graduate level. I am not going to go there tonight. It's a lot of fun, but it does make some people cry. So I want to stay away from that. I will just skim lightly over the philosophical underpinnings. And then I'm going to go to this idea that America is horribly bipolar, that we're bisected by 2 roots of philosophical thought, one out of Jamestown, one out of Plymouth, and they're constantly at battle. They have not aligned with political parties. They have aligned with idealism and the way people feel about things. And I find it incredibly exciting. I cannot watch a news story without pointing to it and saying, yep, there's Jamestown, or yep, there's Plymouth, because they still overshadow almost everything that's happening in our society. This is the 4 nights pictured in for my nautical. I worked for Captain Larry Mack, 2-time skipper of the USS Alabama. If you've seen the movie Crimson Tide, Larry's favorite line was, Gene Hackman underplayed my part. When Larry dressed a sailor down on the 3rd deck, three stories buried below ground, you could hear him topside. Week 1, values and the philosophical underpinnings of the Constitution. You can see our little submarine is floating on the top and enjoying the clear blue skies. This is not a deep discussion. This is a very emotional discussion. This is a discussion where you have an opinion. And the great thing, and I've been all over the world, I can tell you this, everywhere you go, people have an opinion. Everywhere. But only in America will everyone express it. Week 2, historical underpinnings of our Constitution. We'll start with our founding from Jamestown and Plymouth, and we're going to move up to the Constitution and talk about the changes in governance. It's amazing how important the wars are. And there are a lot of wars fought between the time we settle in Jamestown and Plymouth and the time that we reach the Constitution. You may think there's only one, French-Indian War. That's one of 3 world wars that are being fought at that time. But there's also wars with the Indian tribes. And that is shaping the way Americans are viewing themselves and how they have to get this common protection. Week 3, we're going to dive into the Framers' Constitution. I'm not going to read the Constitution to you. It'll appear on the screen, but I want to tell you the stories behind each of those articles. Some of them are absolutely fascinating. Some of the stuff that's going on that propels people to think, write, and act the way they do in that conference. And week 4 is blistering. It's very deep. You can see the submarine's very deep on this one. We're going to go through from the ratification of the Constitution to today in about an hour at a speed of roughly 274 miles an hour. World War II will probably flash by in about 2 minutes. That's how fast it's going to go. But hitting all the major court decisions, all the major laws, all the major social influences that shaped our Constitution. Little things that you never really thought of that all of a sudden sprung up and changed the way America thinks and feels about itself and how it governs itself. There are times I'm going to say something that's going to trigger some sort of thought. Like I'm going to talk about executive orders. When did executive orders start? George Washington signed some. FDR signed a whole bunch of them. The New Deal was run on executive orders. He got in a fight with the Supreme Court and said, if you don't like it, I will pack the court and get you guys off. And they started retiring one after another. Now the packed court thing we heard a few years ago, that didn't go as well. They tried it, but FDR made it work. He made it stick. So we'll talk about executive orders and what that means. We'll talk about the power of the 3 branches, where it lies, and how it functions. And we'll also talk about amendments. And I have to tell you, as a constitutional scholar, I am absolutely shocked we have so few amendments. Madison would be shocked. Madison's probably turning over in his grave wondering, when are they going to change my Constitution to keep it current? You know, he thought they amended it 10 times in the first 2 years. 10 times in the first 2 years, we're up to 27 now after over 200. It's nuts. So I want to start with values. Values are guiding principles. They're the things that motivate you. The things that drive and support your decisions, your judgments, they drive your behaviors. It's amazing how much you do in your life that's values driven. And from your diet to where you live, to how you live, to who your friends are, the churches you attend, all that stuff is drawn on your values. Now some people hold those values and they put them in a backpack and they carry them, and those values weigh them down over years. Years and years, and they're weighed down by the values. And the values that they had in the 50s and the 60s are still there. I urge you constantly pull those values out and look at them and make sure they're current and relevant to the life you're living now. Because you'll be amazed at what you find in that backpack. It's some fascinating stuff that we carry around with us that drive our decisions and drive our opinion and stuff. And always be open to listening and learning. My last job in the United States Air Force, I was the Air Education Training Commander, Chief Learning Officer, and I dealt with neuroscience. How the brain takes in information, holds information, and regurgitates that information on demand in crisis situations. How do you get a fighter pilot who can respond? We managed to shorten fighter pilot training from 1 year to 6 months and cut it down by $16 million by using advanced computer techniques and simulators, because we knew how the brain worked. Your brain is amazing. And it's constantly being rewired, but it's only being rewired if you use it. And you have to challenge yourself. You need tactile learning with your fingers. You need cognitive learning with your head. You need aesthetics, you need art, you need literature, you need things to pull in. And if you've mastered one thing, move to another. The best thing you can do is probably learn a musical instrument. It works on a cognitive side, it works on a tactile side. If you've mastered a musical instrument, change. About every 5 years, pick up a new one. That will keep you young. It is the fountain of youth for your brain. You're producing neurons every day. If they don't find something to do in 3 days, they die. They are looking for a job. Give them something to do. Learn. Come together with other people and talk. Put the cell phones down, look each other right in the face, and talk. Talk about the things that interest you because it interests other people as well. We have those core values. The core values are deepest in our thought. There's a book that came out a couple years ago, and it's really a lot of fun. This is Kevin Rudd's book. Kevin Rudd, if you don't remember the name, is Prime Minister of Australia. He speaks Mandarin Chinese, and he wrote this book just a few years ago, and it's on what Xi is thinking. And basically, it's concentric circles of Xi's value structure. What's at the center? Preservation of his power. Very near the center, taking of Taiwan. At the outer extremes, world domination. So he's got these varying levels. This is a values analysis of Xi and the Chinese Communist Party. Historians love that kind of stuff. I'm a historian. So I will kind of do a values analysis of the United States, and I'm going to have you help me with that in just a few minutes. The values that are core values are those that are held in highest regard. They're the last and least likely to be compromised. However, you have competing values. You'll have one value that says you need to do this and another value that says you need to do that, and you'll make a decision. I give you a great example. Somebody risks their life to save somebody else. They don't want to die. They don't want to die, but when they see that other person in crisis, that other value of saving that other life takes precedence even over saving themselves, and they go forward and do it. It's amazing how those values work. And so you're having those struggles yourself, possibly in friendships, relationships that you have. Bring them out, talk about them, exercise them, show them the sunlight, and resolve discrepancies. Your values should be consistent over time. If they're not consistent over time, they're probably not values. They're probably just opinions. So I want you to think about real things, real important values. Oh, I went the wrong way. I just bought this thing yesterday. So there's core personal values. I talked about that. There's also professional standards. If you are a doctor, a nurse, a lawyer, you're taking an oath, there's certain professional standards that you have to maintain. They become like values to you, but they're prescribed to you. There's service values representing to people in military service, but also people in other areas of service. There's societal values, which is really interesting, what a society values, and you can tell by their behaviors, and we're going to go through that in the exercise, and I hope you'll find that fun. And then lastly, and we'll hit this big in week 3, there's constitutional values. The values that were carried forth in the framers, pushed into that Constitution, and are supposed to be washing over the country even today. And we'll see how well we're doing with that. Exercise number 1, I'll turn it over to you. Lily? Okay. Please. Introduce yourself to the people around you, and you'll give your name, what you do, and a fun fact about yourself, and then plunge into this question. And I'll have Lily read the question.
Am I reading this?
Yep.
Okay. You are a visitor to the United States and unfamiliar with the culture, social structure, and even the behaviors common to this country's society. Using your experiences over the past 3 days, identify what you believe are the 5 most cherished values shared by United States citizens.
So you don't know these Americans. You just landed here from, I don't care, Mars. And you're looking around and you're saying, what do these people value? Just based on what you've seen over the last 3 days. You know, drug, sex, and rock and roll are suitable answers. But please talk, talk amongst yourselves here for a few minutes, and then we're going to call you for some answers.
Fix this where it shouldn't reverb. You might just have to speak closer to it, so that way you can actually speak loud.
Is the speaker directly behind it?
No, the speakers are in that corner, and if you
that's what it was.
If you want to change the volume,
Yeah.
I have it set to where it should be perfect, but you can change it right behind.
I'm just speaking real loud. Is it not working?
No, it is.
Okay.
But it's just in case you get. I know your voice will get tired eventually.
Eventually.
I know mine would. So if you just want to come back up here and use it, you just turn it on and use it.
Okay. Do you want to call for the answers and me write them, or do you want to just call and write them?
Call and write.
Okay.
Am I asking if they're raising their hand?
However you want to run it, it's fine with me. Did somebody give you this in advance, didn't they?
No.
Okay.
Well,
Mary took them, so
Maybe I did.
Yeah. I'm sorry if I put you on the spot. You did
Don't worry
fine.
about it. Thank you.
I have gotten some really funny answers on this, but drug, sex, and rock and roll usually tend to come out pretty high.
You got 15 bills coming from different places. You hadn't see these, but yet they're charging.
How you doing?
I'm good. How's time?
7:49 or 17:49.
Yes. I work with places.
What do you think? Have
So
they had enough time?
yeah. If you guys would like to share,
You're gonna have to talk real loud or use the mic.
I'm scared of the mic.
Yeah.
And the old doctors learned about it.
Turn it on with the slide switch.
Now it's all about that. They don't give a care about your health or whatever.
If you guys have anything you'd like to share, I'd appreciate it if you'd raise your hand. Sorry. If you guys will have anything you'd like to share, please raise your hand. And I'll write your answer on the board.
No one has a value? Sir, go ahead.
I think people value their own opinions.
Make 2 rows. Yeah. Vertical. So you
No. I know that. Just like, what am I titling them?
No, just put them down there. Own opinion, sir.
I guess I wrestle with an issue that when we look at all of the
Want this one?
rhetoric, what is the impact that has on our younger children and grandchildren for the future?
So how do you express that as a value you see expressed in society?
Constant conflict.
We value conflict?
No, I don't. but
Yeah.
It appears that we may.
It does appear that some people value conflict. Ani, next.
I like Tom. Tom had the answer of property rights.
Property.
What is mine, and I want to do what I want to with it.
The first 2 words my little brother said to me growing up, it's mine. Property? Companionship. What do you see in these people's behavior that makes you think they value companionship?
I've seen them before.
Yeah? They're together?
They're apart, but they are strengthened differently.
Yeah. I see, and this is my wife right here, Jacqueline, but we go out to eat and we're always amazed to see people sitting beside each other and they're both on the phone. And I think, I wonder if they talk to each other. Maybe they're texting to each other. I don't know. Isn't that bizarre? Boy, I didn't get married to talk to somebody on the phone. What else?
Family.
Pardon?
Family.
Family. There's I think a universally popular value that because some of them are not. Sir.
Hopefully, leading up to today, especially a visitor would see that we valued our heritage and our past, the past.
And we look for, the thing you look for in the expression of values is artifacts. So what are the artifacts that tell us that? We got flags around, particularly in this neighborhood. It's not everywhere I've lived do they have flags around, trust me. In some places they come and ask you to take your flags down. I kid you not. But we have statuary, we have signs, you know, somebody lived here. There's one in front of the First Methodist Church up there, talks about the history. You know, that's a valuing in the heritage.
Our beliefs.
Our beliefs. We value our beliefs. We hold them fairly tightly, rigidly almost at times. What else?
Commerce.
Commerce, business. Boy, do we value business. That's right out of Jamestown. What else? Oh, do we? And you are right on, sir. Americans love individuality, you know? And you ask any teenager and they'll tell you, I want to be an individual, just like Mark. What else?
Freedom.
Freedom. To do what? Pardon? Whatever. Freedom to do whatever. Yep. Because we don't like to be told no. Americans do not like the word no.
Freedom to be an American.
Yeah, we like that. No one has said youth. If you step into this country and walk 10 feet, you're going to notice that everyone on TV is under 30. You know, and there seems to be a fanciful youth where all these people are rushing to stay or be young. It's rather odd. You know, I tell you, it's not that way in Japan. You go to Japan, there's a supreme value put on age because there's an assumption that wisdom comes with age. I refute that, but nevertheless, that's an interesting one. Status. And with that wealth, we do value wealth. And we make some interesting judgments about wealthy people, often thinking that they're also smart, that they're also successful. Not always true.
I think we value our faith.
We value faith. I think the faithful value our faith. But the number of churches should make you think, wow, there's something to this in this country. And my foreign visitors who come to stay at my house will tell me that they've never seen so many churches. And I will tell them where else in America they can go and see a different landscape. What else?
Taking care of our vulnerable.
Taking care of our vulnerable. Any others?
Kind of piggybacking off of Bain there, the freedom to be able to believe what you want. You know, you've got that right to.
Mm-hmm. And that's something you see just walking around.
To an extent.
Okay. See, the things I see when I walk around aren't very positive. I see a lot of not very positive things. I see the drug, sex, and rock and roll expressed in my society. And that is a concern to me. And in putting that into a constitutional context is difficult, but we're doing it. Anything else? Sir?
Having an opinion without threat.
Okay. That seems to be in danger at times lately, but okay.
I think we value our things.
We value our property. Yep. We are. The person who dies with the most toys wins.
I like to think we value our Constitution.
I would like to think so too, sir. Any other?
Leisure time. I don't know how that would, vacations, leisure.
Yeah.
Free time, you're.
It depends on where you're looking. I think if you're looking in South Florida during spring break, you say, yeah, these Americans, they really value this. If you look at the number of vacation days we take as opposed to our European counterparts, we work too hard. We work way too hard. So it depends on where you are and what you see. Americans come out of a very industrialized society which really valued hard work, and they became very fiercely independent. They worked really, really hard. The miracle of World War II, if you didn't know, Britain doubled its production, Germany doubled its production, Japan quadrupled its production. The United States of America multiplied its production by 25 times between 1939 and 1945. By 1945, the American Navy was larger than every other navy on Earth combined, whether you count tons or whether you count ships. That was all done with the miracle of production. Americans did that. We did that. What else do we value?
She said education.
Education. What's your sign that we value education? It's a law. It's called Barth's distinction. And Barth's distinction says there's two types of people, those who divide people into two types and those who won't. I love that. So tonight I'm going to divide America into two types of people. I'm going to divide them into Jamestonians and Plymouthians. Okay? And I want to talk about those two places. There's Jamestown. Jamestown's a fascinating place. I hope you'll go. It's sinking into the sea and it won't be around for much longer. So I would like you to go and see Jamestown. I have the exact date it was settled. Jamestown was settled in 1607. It's by a company that's coming over here to make money. They're the Virginia Company, and they believe they can actually make money like the Spanish made money. The Spanish found gold. We're not going to find any gold in America, not for a long time. That's going to come 49 California, remember that. But they've got May 14, 1607, they land on this large peninsula. It's 40 miles inland from the sea. And it's on this little promontory. They can build ramps right out to the ships, and they're elated because no one's living there. There's a reason no one's living there. It's a swamp. It's awful. The water coming out of the James River at this point is brackish. When the tides come in, it's salt water, and so it's never drinkable. You can sink to your knees in a lot of places just walking over this territory, and mosquitoes rise like black clouds throughout the day. And because these people are there just to make a profit, they're not really interested in doing anything. Okay? The first group comes over. It's about 1/3 gentlemen. The next group comes over, it's 28 out of 100 gentlemen. The next group comes over, it's 28 out of 90 gentlemen. Gentlemen don't work. And their servants don't work. And John Smith one time said, if I could have 100 laborers, we would have got more done than with 1,000 of these people. Because he couldn't get them to work. And so the colony is constantly on the verge of failing. And you're familiar with the starving time when they're going to go and starve. Why is Jamestown so ineffective in coming together? Because of its value structure. They managed to build houses. Everybody can build as good a house as you can build yourself. And if you go there, you can see the reconstruction. And again, it's a lot of fun to go to Jamestown. They do take off the Indians. And the Indians... It starts off bad. It gets worse. There's one event where they paddle up to an Indian village and behead several Indian warriors at the side of the canoe and then paddle off. That's the type of stuff that's going on. The wars are going to get fiercer and fiercer in Jamestown. Jamestown, though, is there to make a profit. And if you and your wife come forward and say, well, we're not doing real well here, we've got to go out into the inland, they'll say, bye, see ya, because they don't have to take care of you anymore. And so Jamestown is constantly sending these people off to be slaughtered by the Indians. But nevertheless, John Rolfe comes up with this great idea, though. He says, what we'll do is we'll grow tobacco. Indian tobacco in this area was terrible, but he managed to import some tobacco, which was pretty good stuff. It was going for 18 pounds overseas. Theirs wasn't as good. It was going for 4 pounds, but they could produce volume. And at the height of this thing, this whole compound was green because they were planting the stuff in the streets. They were putting out tobacco like mad, and that managed to save the colony. And it created this love of business. That business that we talk about, commerce, profit. That's the Jamestown model right there. Okay? And by the way, if you see Mel Gibson in Patriot and they go through the cornfield, that's inaccurate. It would have been a tobacco field at that time period. There were no cornfields that time. And that's another thing you need to learn. Do not watch historical movies with historians. It'll bug you. Let's talk about Plymouth. Plymouth is coming around a few years later. You're familiar with the Plymouth story? This was the birth myth of the United States of America for a long time. When I was a kid, I was taught that we followed Plymouth, that Americans were all Plymouth. And we only mentioned Jamestown. Jamestown was like this failed colony. It's kind of like Roanoke, you know. So we got these pilgrims who come over. The pilgrims are really, really interesting. Okay, they're different than they're Puritans. They're different than the people who are going to come later. These people are separatists. They don't want to change the English church. They think the English church is far too corrupt. They just want out. They're being persecuted. They're going to go over to Holland for a while and try to live there. And when they get to Holland, they find what a lot of people find, that they start to blend in with the culture, and their kids are speaking Dutch, and they think, well, this isn't working out at all. They go back and negotiate a deal to come back to America and this continent, it's going to be called America, and get some property. Maybe in that place, Virginia, although not so close that we have to live with the Virginians because they smell bad and they're just there for a profit. So they managed to negotiate this great deal. And the great deal is you can take 2 boats, the Speedwell, which is neither speedy nor well, and the Mayflower, and you can come over. And you know the story, the Speedwell goes out and starts to sink, they bring it back, they go out again, Speedwell starts to sink, they bring it back, and finally, those who can get on the Mayflower. And it's a horrible, horrible voyage. There are accounts of the Mayflower. I got relatives who came over on the Mayflower. Obviously, I never talked to them about it, but I've read a lot about it. I'm not that old yet. But it was a horrible, horrible voyage. What you don't hear very often is there were separatists, pilgrims, who wore the funny hats, but there were also a lot of other people who came over. There were people who for building houses, and there were people for cooking food, and there were people for doing chores. And they came over to make a profit. They had a very Jamestonian motive. And the separatists, they wouldn't speak to them. They called them the strangers. And they just stayed away in a different part of the ship. And then they got to Cape Cod, and they looked over the gunnels at that icy wilderness that was Massachusetts in 1620, and they thought, oh my God, there's only one way we're going to survive, and that's if we all band together. So they pulled the strangers down into a room, and they said, could you please sign up to this document? And the document was going to be their charter for how they're going to run the government. And of course, you know it as the Mayflower Compact. The Mayflower Compact, I want to read you a passage from it. We do, by these presents, solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one another, covenant and combine ourselves together in a civil body politic for our better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid. And by virtue hereof do enact, constitute, and frame such just and equal laws, ordinance, acts, constitutions, and offices from time to time. This is a run-on sentence, if you are an English major. As shall be through thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we all promise due submission and obedience. And they do. It's an amazing colony. Remember I told you in Jamestown, if you and your wife want to go out and start a colony, you could? Not at Plymouth. Plymouth is overcrowded. And if you want to leave, you go forward and you ask the elders, can I leave? And they say, you have to find 5 couples to leave, 5 families. You have to take a minister with you. 1 day of labor in your new surroundings will be spent building a church, and then you'll spend another day labor after that to build a school. And you'll have your services every week, and you'll come back and report to us on your progress. It was very, very controlling, okay? Now, I'm going to tell you something a little offhand. Sexually, the Puritans are very, very liberated. I can tell you that if you go and ask for some of the journals are not kept on the shelf. They are kept under, and you have to have special permission to read them. I will just tell you this, that a woman had to prove she could get pregnant, and if she didn't get pregnant within the first year, he could end the marriage. If she wasn't satisfied with the relationship, I won't go into details, she could end the marriage. So... Yeah, yeah, because they thought that was a very human thing to do. So they're not the people you thought they were, and they're just fascinating people. I could tell you about the Thanksgiving that you thought happened didn't happen. It was a different Thanksgiving. There's a lot of shellfish. Yeah, no turkey, no squash. Anyway, yeah, but nevertheless, this is it. They've got a remake of this too, and this is also worth your time and attention to go and see. What you're seeing developed out of this is this bipolar behavior, and that's it in a nutshell. Jamestown, individuality is everything. Independence and self-reliance, and you saw that in how we are today. Competition, commerce and competition, it's all about those. We have to go to a system with that meritocracy. Creativity and innovation. You don't have what you need? Build it, make it, create it. And Jamestown's going to come up with great creations. Adventure and exploration. Remember, move into the outback. You want more land? Go over the mountain. Yeah. Watch out for the Indians. They may not like you. Limited central power. We're not going to control you. All we need is the profits and proceeds and individual rights. But look at Plymouth. Altruism, service before self, the common good, cooperation, communal sharing of wealth and labor, expended central power, social well-being. It's an entirely different society. 2 English-speaking societies are growing up a few hundred miles from each other, and they are completely different societies. And both of them are casting long shadows on us today. To prove it, the American Revolution, and you'll note the colors I used. Yellow for Jamestown, green for Plymouth. Years ago, I used to do this with red and blue, and then those colors got co-opted politically, and I had to turn to yellow and green. I hope you won't mind. If you can see one party in either of these, I'm going to challenge you, because these do not descend down party lines. The parties pick and choose, and they take some and they take others, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, American Revolution, decidedly Jamestonian. These people have been living under the rule of elite since they came here, the gentlemen. And when the American Revolution starts, we ask the average man to put down his plow and hoe, pick up that musket, and come with us. And we're going to reward him for it. And he's going to be treated with dignity and respect. And when you ask what the American Revolution people are fighting for, the grunt troops, they're fighting for themselves, because they have a stake in the outcome. And that's new for warfare. That is brand new for warfare in this world. And you can also see it in the Declaration of Independence, this beautiful document that's created by Thomas Jefferson. I can tell you Jefferson didn't like what the committee did with his document. For years afterwards, Jefferson would meet you at the steps of Monticello, and he'd pull out his Declaration of Independence and ask you to confirm that, isn't it better? Yeah. He was 6'2", his ego was about 6'7". Then you have Madison. Madison's cultured in Plymouth. He grows up just a few miles away from Jefferson, but he's completely different. It is the experience of America between the Declaration and the Revolution and the Constitution that's going to make it different. And I'll talk about that next week. It is a different America. My undergraduate history professor came to me and he said, undergraduate thesis question was, explain how the values of the Declaration of Independence are reflected in the Constitution. I said, they're not. It's a different country. As best you can say, the values are like a fat man who goes to Kentucky Fried Chicken and eats a barrel of chicken. He just loosens his belt, adopts the new values, and keeps moving on. I got an A for that, because that's the way it went. But the Jamestonians weren't real happy with this. They said, we're not ratifying that. It's not enough rights. And Madison said, if you enumerate the rights, don't you realize that that'll be all the rights you have? Those rights and all the others are embedded in this beautiful document. And they said, no, we want them enumerated. So Madison complied, and they got their Bill of Rights. Notice the Constitution's green, we're back to yellow in the Bill of Rights. This war between Jamestown and Plymouth is continuing, and it continues today. So let's take a quick quiz. Gun control, Jamestown or Plymouth? Plymouth, right, public good, yeah. Individuality at guns, that's Jamestown. Legalize marijuana. Jamestown, smoke it if you got it. Real ID. Plymouth. Safety. If anything is public safety is going to be right up at Plymouth. Banning books. Plymouth. Yeah, because we can't trust you. You might hurt yourself. You know? That's dangerous stuff, you know? Leaves the marijuana, leaves the books, all that stuff. Abortion. Jamestown. Do what you want with your body. Okay? Controlling abortion would be Plymouth, because the society decides what you do. Notice, though, if you try to stick these into one party, you can't. Social Security, 1935. Plymouth. Got to take care of our own. Got to take care of our people. The Miranda warning, 1966, Jack Webb got on TV and Dragnet, and he said, Americans need to know about this brand new Miranda warning. So he and partner Bill read it to you twice, each episode in 1966. And if you're old enough, that's where you learned the Miranda warning. Was it Plymouth or was it Jamestown? Plymouth, absolutely, because we're protecting citizens, even from themselves. The 26th Amendment, giving 18-year-olds a vote. Jamestown, absolutely. Do it. Hey, if you got it, do it. Americans with Disability Act. Plymouth. Got to take care of people. And one that's in the news today, vaccine mandates. Plymouth, because you were trying to protect society. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a war that goes on within our politic today. It's a war that was going on in this country in the 17th century. I don't think we're going to solve it soon. Yeah. But if you can see where it comes from and realize that this is something we've inherited, at least you can understand it. And you can start to talk about, you know, if you believe that I have to have a vaccine mandate, how can you at the same time go with this, you know, or this, because they don't fit, because the parties have picked and choose. They have not stayed in Plymouth or Jamestown. They're all over the map. And it makes for fascinating discussion. Nonviolent, civic discourse. It's awesome. So where are we today? We're stuck somewhere in southern New Jersey in a car that has no wheels. And we're not making progress in either direction. And I don't know that that's wrong. I don't know that the framers would be unhappy with that. They would be unhappy with the nature of our civil discourse, although I have to tell you, the election of 1800 was no prize. I don't know if you knew that, but John Adams let it leak into the press that Thomas Jefferson was sleeping with his slaves and producing illegitimate children, which was a no-no for the time. Jefferson retaliated by calling Adams a bedwetter in the press, again, surreptitiously. It was generally regarded to be the most nasty election in U.S. history up until very recently. So we've gone through this. The number one question you are asked as a historian is, has it ever been this bad? The number one answer, oh yes, and worse. You know, tax on the rich exceeded 90% during the World War II era. You know, unemployment exceeded 29% during the Great Depression, higher for minorities. We have been in terrible positions before. America's greatness is its ability to spring back. But we only spring back when we come together. The first three words, we the people. When we the people come together, we can make amazing things happen. And that's what we're going to talk about over our next few weeks together. This is what I talked about tonight. Next week, we're going to get into those historical underpinnings. The international trade, I'm going to start right with commerce. The birth and expansion of English settlements up and down. We'll talk about some of the wars. You'll hear about the War of Jenkins' Ear. All important, the War of Jenkins' Ear. It is completely neglected in the history books. Poor Jenkins lost his ear, but we kept the Spanish out of Florida eventually. It's worth it. The wars in our evolution towards independence, American Revolution, Declaration of Independence, and the Articles of Confederation. I'm going to go fairly deep in those. If you didn't know this, the Articles of Confederation were perpetual. They were never repealed. Technically, we're still living under the Articles of Confederation, and every great once in a while, I find a court case that's brought citing the Articles of Confederation, and I love it. I just absolutely love it. You know, it's like somebody who's driving up in Fred Flintstone's car with his feet under the hood and shouting, "Dino, I'm ready!" You know. I want to thank our sponsors again for tonight. I want to thank you for tonight. I hope you'll do this always, that you'll always come together and talk about amazing things. America is an amazing thing. It is an amazing journey, an amazing adventure. You're part of the adventure. This is your history. It is my history, and we continue to make it together. So thank you for being here. Good evening, and thanks for coming.